Rev up your engines!
Elon and Tesla has lived on hype for a really long time. Eventually, the rubber has to hit the road, and he's got to sell a bunch of them over and over and over again, increase the quality, and if anything, the quality's worse than it was before. Now there's more competition, and of course, what anybody who understands anything about the automotive industry, when something new comes out, there's always a rush for people to buy it to get the newest toy in town, right? And there's people, when you're talking about electric vehicles, they are in the forefront. They want to buy the new technology. There's so many people that want to do that. But once they buy it, there's like a glass ceiling then. I'll give you a perfect example of a normal car, not electric. The Fiat 500, when it came to the United States, like the second year that it came to the United States, they sold like 55,000 of them in the United States, right? But then the last year, they sold like 15 or 20 or something. People that wanted them got them. Then they found out they had problems. Nobody else wanted something that small anyways. And the ones that they did sell were falling apart. And the whole thing just came apart. It took over a decade for it to come to fruition, but eventually people wise up. They're not going to buy something that falls apart, doesn't hold its value. And of course, in the case of Tesla, anybody who's ever owned one, the guy makes as many cars as he can to sell as many to make his stock options worth money for himself. They don't really make very many spare parts. You get in a wreck with a Tesla, you might be waiting months for parts to fix the car, because they really don't make spare parts. They're using all their parts to build cars so he can make a bigger profit. There's no dealerships around that have parts in stock that you could go get them because, hey, you get in a wreck, maybe a part isn't going to wear out for 5 years. You get in a wreck, it's broken, you got to replace it. If there aren't any replacement parts, your car is useless if you're waiting months to get a part to fix it. And all these factors, including not enough electric charging stations, that all adds in to people aren't that enamored with Teslas anymore. People always like different styles and stuff, and this stuff is pretty staid and boring. He hasn't really changed that much of anything on them, putting out the same cookie cutter Teslas. Eventually, all this stuff is going to come and lie on top of the company. It will squash down. There's no way that it was worth the money. Now the stock guys are all saying, is Tesla overvalued? I would have said they were overvalued 3 years ago, right? But it always takes time for things to catch up, and I think it's catching up to Tesla now. Well, here's another electric car warning. This one is from British Columbia. MG sent me an email and he says, I live in British Columbia. Our government is subsidizing electric cars via grants, which are paid for by the taxpayer. However, we have a tiered electricity billing system. So people with electric cars end up paying for Tier 3 rates, the highest, rather than the Tier 2, which is what most people pay for. The government's recouping the cost of the grants we've socialized utilities. Meanwhile, you can only buy electricity from one provider. So having only one source of energy is ripe for oppression. And that's what happens in the United States, too. I've had people go to charge electric cars where they're traveling around the country. They get to a certain area, they decide, the companies that are selling electricity at the chargers, that they called them their highest rates, because if you're using a DC fast charger that charges it up super fast, it uses a tremendous amount of energy in a small period of time, and you pay the highest absolute rates. One guy had plugged in his EV Lightning, the electric Ford pickup truck, and he said if he would have filled it up, it would have cost him $250. So instead he put in like $30 worth and then went somewhere else to charge it up, made it home, then he charged it up at home. When you use the highest rates of electricity, many of these companies charge whatever they want. What people don't understand in the United States is there are thousands of different utility companies. They can charge whatever they want. You get in an area where it's expensive and you're the visitor charging at the high charging station, they don't care about you. They'll take advantage of you, charge as much as you possibly want. It's not cheap. Everybody says, well, look, electricity's cheap. Oh, it's cheaper to fill up your car. It won't be. Already in some places it isn't. And certainly if they took over, like this man said, hey, they're the only game in town. If everybody's driving electric cars, they can charge you whatever they want. Where I've seen people do stupid things, check this out. Guy in a Subaru at a national park decided to put his canoe on sideways. Instead of having it front and back, he's got it sideways. Isn't it going to cause a wreck driving down the road with his canoe sticking out? How dumb are people getting? As one of the national park workers said, sad thing is you don't have to go looking hard for this stuff. People do this kind of stupidity every day. One person said, here's natural selection at work. Yeah, you're driving with this canoe side, it's bad enough when you're driving, the wind's going to be blowing around and it's sticking out. Then one person said, you think that's bad? Last summer I saw a guy with 2 kayaks and they were both sideways driving down the road. Now, some people called this driver a touron, which is a combination of tourist and moron. One person said, maybe they're trying to keep people from passing them while they're driving down the highway. If I saw that, boy, I'd get out of the way, let me tell you. I guess the level of human intelligence is dropping like a stone lately. If you saw the recent presidential debate, you'd probably agree entirely, like, what's going on there? Is that the best that we can get? Well, the Japanese, check it out. They're planning on building a 310-mile automated cargo conveyor to replace 25,000 trucks. So all the containers with what people want will be going down these giant conveyor belts that are 310 miles long. You think, that's a long length. It's a lot of money, right? Why would you even bother? Well, it turns out in Japan, they're running out of people. They're not breeding anymore. I guess they've given up, right? So they're worried they don't have enough drivers to drive trucks to deliver the crap that people want to buy. The Japanese are planning on connecting big cities together, like Tokyo and Osaka. They say it can efficiently shift millions of tons of cargo, getting tens of thousands of trucks off the road. They can have the Tokyo-Osaka one done by 2034. That's 10 years from now, right? I wouldn't hold my breath on that one. Now, the Japanese are worried about getting their Amazon or whatever they use deliveries on time because the country is expecting that 30% of the parcels simply won't be able to make it from point A to point B by 2030 because there'll be nobody to drive the trucks to get them there. Now, I think they're getting a little bit far-fetched with some forecasts of the future, right? So giant conveyor belts to move things 310 miles. Sounds like a pretty stupid idea to me. Well, if you're into diesels, realize that it was 2 decades ago that Ford killed its legendary 7.3 Power Stroke. And they replaced it with a diesel engine that people still hate today because they don't hold up as well. They replaced it with a 6-liter Power Stroke. It put out more power, but it also broke down a lot more and didn't last as long either. And a lot of these diesel companies have screwed up. For example, General Motors had their 6.6-liter Duramax turbocharged V8. It had lots of power, lasted for a million of miles or more, right? And strange enough, people are even paying almost near new prices for those old trucks because they like the engine so much and they keep fixing them and they keep driving them. So everybody thinks that as things evolve, they get better. In the case of these diesel engines, in terms of long life and durability, no, they've actually gotten worse. Now, they put out more power, they pollute less, yeah, there's no arguing that, but do they last as long? No. Planned obsolescence is actually getting worse with these things than they used to be. Scotty the Man 2023 says, I got a question about towing cars. I have a nice '01 Honda CR-V with 175,000 miles on automatic transmission. I've towed cars weighing between 2,000 to 3,000 pounds recently, short distances, less than 30 miles each. The last one weighed 4,500 pounds, was mainly downhill. My question is, if the transmission is shifting fine now, does that mean no damage was done? I won't tow anymore. The CR-Vs weren't made for really towing all that much. If you towed them less than 30 miles, you weren't going up hills, it shouldn't really have hurt anything. But I mean, let's face the fact. You got a 23-year-old Honda with 175,000 miles. I wouldn't advise pushing it any further. Everything's worn on it, and it's an automatic transmission, which is the weakest point of a Honda anyway. So you say it's shifting okay now, don't do it anymore. And I don't know what you were towing, right? But realize, if you were towing something, just you got a hitch on the back of your CR-V, and you just hook that up to another car. You can't tow an automatic transmission car with its wheels on the ground because that spins and the transmission will overheat and get damaged because it's only made for driving a car down the road. You can't really tow things. Even 30 miles, you could do damage to another car by towing it if the wheels were on the ground. Spice Boy says, my car runs rich when it started. I start my car, it starts at 1,300 RPM, then it goes down to 900 after a minute. The downstream oxygen sensor wire, if I tap it, sometimes stalls the car. You say your car's running rich. All cars run a little bit rich when you start them up, they get extra fuel. If you tap that wire and the car stalls out, then either you got a short in the wiring or the sensor assembly itself is going bad. Now, if you say you tap the wire, that's the wire that goes from the oxygen sensor to the connector. Replace the oxygen sensor because that wiring is part of the oxygen sensor. But if you're talking about the wiring that goes up to the computer, then you'd have to mess with that part of the wiring. You got to figure out, what is it? Is it the wiring that's the short length from the oxygen sensor to where it plugs into the harness? Or is it from the harness back? Pray it's just the one on the oxygen sensor. Then you would just go buy another oxygen sensor and bolt it on. That'd be the easiest fix of them all. The other one is a long wire going into the wiring harness all the way to the computer, and that could be a real pain in the butt. Normally it's the oxygen sensor and the wire that comes off of it that go bad though. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.